Well, I'm Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the Cena Botanical Garden in Kernersville. We'll tell you more about them later on, and later on is when the roundtable shows up, and we'll get into all sorts of controversial topics with them, so stay tuned for that. Between now and then, some great guests, important information coming your way. We'll give you a vaccine update, and you'll get to meet one of the area's school superintendents, all that and much more. But where we want to start is a good friend of ours, and we're always glad we can steal a few minutes of his time, because this man is up and down the road and doing all sorts of things, wears many hats, has a lot of responsibility. I'm talking about my good friend, Dr. Bob Shackelford, president of Randolph Community College. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Great to be here as always.
I want to talk about something that may not seem like a typical topic for a community college president, but I heard through the grapevine that you have an outstanding photography program at Randolph, and it's not just some run-of-the-mill thing. I mean, it's a big deal, and it's nationally recognized. Tell me about it.
Well, it really is. Our photography program is generally regarded as one of the top 3 photography schools in America. I don't mean community college programs. I mean one of the top 3 photography schools. One in Rochester, New York, one in Southern California, and then Randolph Community College,
What
of all places.
What makes it so good, though, Bob?
Well, our faculty are not just educators, they're practitioners. They bring their life experience to the classroom. We don't have a lot of turnover. They built the program over the years. They stay there, they pour their heart and soul into it, and we invest heavily in the program, and it has a reputation really worldwide. It's a world-class program.
Now, as you know, I'm not a tech person. I still have a flip phone, but I'm guessing that you guys have kept up with the times, because in the old days, you mentioned Rochester, where they used to make film a lot. I guess everything's gone digital, whatever. Has your photography department sort of adapted to all the different changes?
Oh, we have made major adaptations. In fact, we renovated the entire building. We upgraded all equipment, and we've changed our curriculum to include digital and video. And in fact, we had a video documentary a year or so ago called The Blue and Gold about the A&T marching band. And if you look at the poster of that video, the prizes it has won, the awards it has won nationally, it looks like a general with all the ribbons on it.
Golly.
It's been incredible.
What kind of jobs and careers, I know this might sound like an obvious question or a stupid question, but what kind of jobs and careers would your folks pursue coming out of a photography program?
Well, we have 3 major focus areas. One is photojournalism, and one is commercial photography, and the other is portrait photography. So
Okay.
People can either open a portrait studio, they can go to work for magazines and newspapers. They work in forensic photography, medical photography. There's a world of job opportunities for our students.
And even in the corporate world too, that's getting more and more demand. As people want to have their own departments, just like you have a department with people
Right.
too. Now, your photography grads have been very accomplished too, and I think you emailed me one day and said, "Hey, we've got some magazine covers that some of our folks have done."
Our graduates are incredible. We have a student, Nathan Richards, who just shot the European edition, the cover of Elle magazine.
Wow.
Which is just a real prize.
Yeah, that's huge.
And we've also had a recent graduate shoot the cover of Smithsonian magazine. We just had a 2016 graduate win the Photographer of the Year in Ohio, and that's even with Western Kentucky University and University of Ohio having a great photography program. And we had one of our recent graduates was the first female photographer in history to shoot the official formal portrait of the United States Supreme Court.
That's just great. I know people in photography circles know about your department, but as far as the public is concerned, it's sort of like the best kept secret in the world there, and we really congratulate you on that. Before time runs out, I want to make sure I put up the information. The general website, of course, for Randolph Community College is randolph.edu. Very simple, randolph.edu. You can learn all about programs and the curriculum and all the things that the community college is involved with. And as far as the photography thing, can somebody, if they go to the website or sign up, is that something you do year round, or is there certain times of the year you can sign up, or what?
Yes, look on our website, look up our photography program, get in touch with us, and they'll show you how to get enrolled.
All right. Dr. Bob Shackelford, thanks for telling me about this. I wasn't aware of some of it. I'm proud of what you're doing.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll be right back after this. Now on Triad Today, and as we do every month, we want to give you a vaccine update, and specifically talking about boosters as well. And we do that with our good friend, Dr. David Priest from Novant. Let's watch.
I think what we're learning and what people have to realize is the third dose as it stands right now is really just increasing your chance of avoiding an asymptomatic or mild case. 2 doses are really giving some nice memory cells to folks. So I think we have to separate again, what are vaccines designed for? And almost all of them are really designed to prevent you from dying of that disease. So hospitalization and death is what vaccines are supposed to do. And it's funny, we're holding this vaccine up. We're asking more of it than we ask of any other vaccine, which is there's this sudden demand for, we want the vaccine to prevent me from ever even getting a mild or asymptomatic case. So if that's the standard, it's not a vaccine that's going to get you there. It's a vaccine that's going to keep you out of the hospital and keep you from dying like other vaccines do. Now, what happens early on, the first 6 months after you get the vaccine, not only does it prevent you from, keep you out of the hospital from dying, it also keeps you from getting asymptomatic or mild cases pretty well. But over time, the way the immune system works is those memory cells are created, and that's really going to protect you long term. And you don't need neutralizing antibodies. Your immune system assumes you don't need those, and those fade over time. And then if you get exposed again, you get a mild or asymptomatic case because your memory cells take a little bit of time to get ramped up again when you're exposed to the virus. It's got to make more neutralizing antibodies. So what that third dose does is really just say, we're going to give you a little bit more neutralizing antibodies to help you avoid it altogether, even though you're pretty protected from hospitalization and death. So all that's to say, as we plan boosters and think through booster doses, we have to say to ourselves, what is the purpose of this booster, or what is the purpose of the third dose? And if the sole purpose is we just want to keep you from getting COVID altogether, I think that changes the equation on how often you would need it and those kind of things. So, I'm not going to be surprised if additional true boosters that have been designed against Delta variant or other variants are, once a year thing like a flu shot. I think that could very much, be part of the equation here. But I think people who've had these 2 doses of mRNA vaccine are still protected from the serious complications for quite a while. And we'll learn through as the science evolves how long that is and when extra doses, would be necessary. So in terms of vaccine third doses, the recommendation is to try to stick with the product you got. So right now, in general, that's Pfizer. That people who got Pfizer who are over age 65 or work in occupations with high risk or have other immunocompromising conditions can go ahead and get that third dose of Pfizer. The key is they want you to stick with the product you got originally. And so what we know about vaccination is that it gives you a more even and predictable immune response and an incredible amount of protection to someone who's had COVID before. And so we are encouraging individuals who've had COVID to get vaccinated. Now, there's a lot to learn about all of this, right? The things move very quickly. We're talking about third doses of vaccine and then some future state, Delta variant specific boosters, and how does that fit into all of this? And so we're working through all of that. But I think the message is if you've had COVID, your immune response is not as predictable as if you've been vaccinated, and you are at risk for getting COVID again. And so if you want to avoid that, it's worth getting vaccinated. Look at the percentage of people in the hospital are vaccinated. We get real worried about that. 91% of the people in the hospital are unvaccinated and 9% are vaccinated. A better number is to say, of the individuals in the community have been vaccinated, what percentage of those people end up in the hospital or dying? And that number is less than 1%. So that's really the number to focus on, the importance and how well vaccination works.
And our thanks to Dr. David Priest and Novant Health. The website, if you want to check it out, is novanthealth.org. We'll be right back. Now on Triad Today, always glad to put the spotlight on some really great community servants, and we have one with us right now. With me is Kenya Thornton. She's Executive Director of Community Intervention and Educational Services for Eliza's Helping Hands. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Give me just a quick overview so people understand what's the mission of the organization.
So Eliza's Helping Hands works with men, women, and children from the community and surrounding counties to help prevent, stop domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking.
Now, how has your work in helping people and promoting how to deal with this, how has your work changed since the pandemic, and what's been the big challenge there?
Well, domestic violence, as you know, and any type of violence is always a big challenge. With COVID, what happened was a lot of our victims and children and families were forced to kind of stay together during the lockdown. And then it also prevented a lot of people from going to work. There was the health crisis, and then it caused like a huge financial crisis. So that, along with already the element of domestic violence or violence in the home and those stresses, just made it worse.
Yeah, and you and I don't want to say this the wrong way, but I mean, the whole pandemic thing, the lockdowns, the stress, not being at work, it sort of brought the worst out in a lot of people, unfortunately, and some of them very good people. But anyway, I'm glad that you're doing what you are and in helping folks. Now, what are your goals for the future as far as the organization?
So our goals, of course, is to continue with the work that we're doing. We believe in like preventing things too. So that's why we try to work with a lot of young people, trying to stop it, the cycle of it right in the beginning. And then, of course, towards the goals, of course, to expand our services to be able to offer more services in the community.
Yeah. Now, you and I didn't rehearse this. I'll put you on the spot. What kind of, and you don't have to give specific examples, but what kind of feedback in general, what feel do you have for how things have gone over the years with the program?
Well, we get a lot of our victims that or have become survivors who then come back and then volunteer to work with us. So
That's
which is
great.
also a good investment. So we invest in the community, and we believe in reinvesting that back into what we do, which is why, of course, we want to continue to expand, get our name out there.
Yeah. I think that's great, and it empowers the folks, and really, I guess it's kind of therapeutic for the former victims as well to be able to help others. The support of Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust, what does that mean to your mission?
So in reading a little bit about that Kate B. Reynolds and who she was and how she used her platform and her resources to be able to give back to her legacy, that's kind of what we want to do. I name Eliza's after my grandmother, who also had an influential part of my life. And so I wanted to do the same thing. So that's why I wanted to create Eliza's Helping Hands, to again continue with the same type of thing by leaving legacy. So it was very important and very surprising for us that we were able to receive her resources.
A couple of connected legacies there through the generations. I think that's great. Now, can the community help in different ways? What kind of help do you want from the community?
Well, of course, financial resources are always helpful, but even if you don't give it to us, give it to an organization that you may know of, because it all kind of cycles back. But people, of course, can donate. They can donate their time. They can donate things that we may need for our future in terms of like our safe house, things like that. They can also obviously find out about us at our website, elizashelpinghands.org, and follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, we're going to put that up right now. elizashelpinghands.org is the website. Please check that out. And also a shout out to the good folks at Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. You can learn more about them at www.kbr.org. Kenya, I'm so proud of what you do and for the success you've had and for the people you've helped, and keep up the good work, will you?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it in the community.
Okay. We'll be right back after this. Now on Triad Today, and I'm so glad to have this special guest with us. And I was going to say we welcome her to Triad Today, but it's kind of strange because if you see on the wide shot, we're not in the Triad Today. I mean, we're in a different place. We're in the school system studio, so she ought to be welcoming us. We're with Superintendent Tricia McManus, and thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I know you graduated from the University of South Florida. You later became Assistant Superintendent of Hillsborough Schools, so I'm assuming you were born and raised in Florida.
I was born and raised in Tampa, Florida.
Florida girl.
Yes.
Now, who or what led you to choose a career in education? Who sort of planted that bug in you?
So my father both of my parents have degrees in education. And my father was a physical ed teacher for his entire career, and that was over 40 years. He was also a football coach and head high school football coach,
Wow.
winning his coach in Hillsborough County up until after he passed. Somebody then beat the record, but he was an amazing educator, and so obviously the stories that he told, the summers we would spend in the gym with him, and just it was just in the blood. And as a result, actually of the 8 children in my family, I'm one of 8, 5 of us are educators.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you knew from an early age that that's what you wanted to get into.
Yeah, but it became more clear. I knew it, but as I started teaching, my purpose became more clear, like the calling became more clear to me. But I knew
Right.
I knew I loved teaching and wanted to be a teacher, but it wasn't until I got further into my career that I realized, yeah, this is what I'm really meant to do.
And with a little bit of different twist and turn in your life, I might be sitting here interviewing Coach McManus. You don't know. You know, got that from your dad. Well, let's be serious for a second about your new role here. And I say new because we haven't met until today. Your first big challenge as superintendent was guiding us through the pandemic, which isn't even done yet. We transitioned, we had in-person learning and lockdowns, and now we're dealing with vaccines and anti-vaxxers and masking and when not to mask. Give me your assessment of how the school system has weathered the COVID storm so far.
Yeah. Well, last school year, I will say that our staff, and this is, across school-based staff, district staff, really just rose to the occasion with response to everything from feeding our families when we were not in school to as we started returning, making sure that our schools were equipped to return in a safe manner, from every single protocol, every single marking, from removing furniture, changing classrooms. That was a huge amount of work, from our custodians keeping buildings clean to, everything. Just every staff were absolutely amazing. It was not an ideal situation. Many of our students last year struggled. Even to yesterday, I had parents whose children are back now who said, I am so glad we're back because my child really struggled last year with the isolation, with not being in school for the full year. And so as a result, our results as far as academic results have declined.
You're going to have to put an asterisk by that or something because that's nobody's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It happened everywhere. It happened across the country, but it still is impactful to our students. And then a lot of issues around of trauma and mental health and families dealing with loss, and just all the changes that occurred are real for our students as they returned this year. And so, yes, as you said, it's not over. We are still dealing with COVID and just with all of the protocols and procedures that come with that. But I would say that I feel that, you know what, all those challenges that we are educators, and educators are strong and resilient, and we are here for our students. And I think the fact that we know our purpose and that we are here for our students keeps us moving forward even amidst the challenges.
Right, and I'll say as a disclaimer that the superintendent and I were both, there's my mask, we were both masked up as we came in the building, and we're both fully vaccinated and socially distanced, so we're doing this without mask on. As you know, there are currently more guns in circulation in America than there are people. It's one of the saddest statistics I've ever come across, 300 and some million guns. So it's no surprise that students everywhere have access to guns that they didn't used to have access to. What steps are you taking to try to at least keep them out of the schools?
Yeah, so I think one of the steps we're taking, and this isn't keeping them out, but from what I understand, guns have been in schools. Based on those statistics, those are not brand new.
Right.
They've been in schools. The good news now is that every time we've had one, they're being reported. At least every time I know we've had one, they're being reported. And so when kids know something, they're saying something, and that's amazing. They're reporting it to law enforcement, they're reporting it to others. And so I think that is a good way, because the more that kids know, and that, someone's going to say something, and then the result of this is going to not be good.
Right.
And even though none of those guns, other than the one incident this year, are kids intending to use on campus, they have them, and then they end up in a lot of trouble. And so, so saying something is really important, and I think that's helping, in addition to a lot of social, emotional learning and other things that will help with the preventative part of that.
We have a few seconds left. I'll put you on the spot. What's the most gratifying thing about your job?
I was enjoying that moment today. It's being in classrooms with kids. It's seeing our students smiling. It's seeing them engaged in learning. It's seeing staff interacting with them in a positive way. And so that's what it's all about, our students being successful.
I know you've been running like crazy and being pulled in so many different directions, classrooms, meetings, problems to solve, crises to deal with. So I appreciate the few minutes that you spent with us here, and I hope we'll do it again.
Thank you. I hope so too.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but a quick shout out to the good folks here at the Senior Botanical Garden. We hope you'll visit their website and the garden itself. You can have your weddings and receptions and all sorts of things here. It's a great place, Senior Botanical Garden. And now to the roundtable on my immediate right, but always on the political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcast journalist. Socially distanced behind us is the man I call Mr. Theater. Dave Briggs is director of High Point Theater. The chair is empty behind us. Keith Granberry has been delayed on the road. He may or may not get in here. We think he will get here in the middle, so we'll see what happens. Guys, let's get to it. Thanks to Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Superintendent Tricia McManus, a bus driver strike was averted last week. And that begs the question, not talking about Winston-Salem Forsyth necessarily, but in general. Should municipal employees who are essential, such as police, firefighters, school bus drivers, should they be fired if they don't show up for work? Ogie, what's your thoughts?
No, I'm a workers' rights advocate. I mean, you have the right to strike. I mean, you can't take that right away from anybody, really, regardless.
Dave Briggs, what do you think? Essential workers, police, fire, school bus drivers, teachers, if they don't show up for work, do you fire them?
I am one of those municipal employees.
Right.
So no, HR has a series of protocols that they deal with. If an employee is absent for one reason or another, they should follow those protocols and go through them. Just to fire them offhand, unless they've done something egregious,
Right.
That's a different story.
Okay. Is your mic on yet?
It is.
Did you? Okay. The question is, and I'm glad you made it. The question is, should a municipal essential employee, school bus driver, teacher, fireman, policeman, be fired if they say we're not going to show up for work?
No, they should not be fired. I mean, it's so many people that needs the help. They shouldn't be fired for that, no.
All right. Speaking of schools, the chairman of Forsyth County Republican Party says that parents should call the police if they think their child is being exposed to objectionable reading material in the classroom. Not that there is any, but does this sound like a good idea to you, Ogie?
It doesn't need to be any for them to object. It sounds like Nazi Germany to me. Why don't they read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury? So you need to
You have to be able to read, though.
That's true, yeah.
Dave, what do you
Well,
think?
I
Is that a
think
good idea to call the
That might
police?
be the most absurd thing I've heard. There are, again, protocols that deal with the county schools or city schools. You have a curriculum director, you've got principals, you've got assistant superintendents and superintendents. Take it, go through the chain of command, and if you still don't receive any satisfaction, go to the school board.
Sure.
Yeah, call the police on
All the
it.
police if you
No.
don't like something in the classroom, Keith?
It sounds like people who don't want history, entire history to be told. They want their history to be told. So when you start talking about people talking about the woke society, they're looking at people not being able to get their history told because they feel like their history is the only history in the United States.
All right, now this is one that happened away from us, but I want to see if we can bring it back around. Earlier this month, tragically, a woman was raped while riding on a Philadelphia commuter train. None of the witnesses did anything. They all sat there and just watched it. Here's my question, guys. Should witnesses to a violent assault be arrested for not trying to stop it, Ogie?
Well, it's just a shame, but I don't know how you would enforce that, Jim. I just don't see it being feasible to do it. Sad but true.
Would it fall under obstructing justice or something? What do you think, Dave?
They are accessories after the fact. Most of these people are also taking videos of these same acts. It was disgusting and very disturbing. I think they should be charged.
What do you think? Be charged if you're a witness to a violent rape or something and not try to stop it?
Something absolutely should be done to you where you can sit on a subway and watch a woman raped and you film it, but you don't do anything about it. I mean, something has to be done, absolutely.
Maybe some jail time for that. Okay. North Carolina Congressman Madison Cawthorn, our personal favorite, the man who has been caught twice carrying a gun into an airport and not been punished for it, has now introduced legislation that would ban vaccine requirements for airplane travel inside the United States. Good idea or bad idea, Ogie?
That poor, tragically misguided child has never had a good idea yet.
And he's just now,
And
before
he's
we roll
gotten
tape, he's just now
elected.
been linked to the January 6th
Of
thing.
course he is. Of course he is. And he should be charged for that. It's just the bottom of the barrel.
No vaccines for people traveling by air?
I'm not in favor of mask mandates. I think mask recommendations are better. United Airlines, Delta Airlines, American, they are private companies. They should be able to set the policy that suits their needs.
All right, Keith, what do you think?
Yeah, recommendations aren't going to do much for many people, but I'm telling you, with this vaccine, with this virus, people are dying, but there should be opportunities for people to really, it should be a mandate. I really believe that.
All right, North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein and 19 other states' Attorney General are taking action against Postmaster Louis DeJoy. He's also a Greensboro native, by the way. Postmaster illegally enacted a plan, they say, to deliberately slow down mail delivery and cut services. Who wins this battle between the state's Attorneys General and Louis DeJoy? Ogie.
I don't know enough of the legalities, the technical part of the law, but I certainly hope the AGs win and somehow get this guy out of there. The Board of Governors has to get rid of him. Biden can't do it.
Right.
Unless he breaks the law. Maybe that's the way to get him out the door.
Yeah, Dave, it's already taken, not to get personal about things, but our mail, we'll get things sent from Winston-Salem and say to Kernersville, it'll take 8 days. I mean, what do you think?
It's an interesting quandary. The United States Postal Service, obviously, they were at one time a fully federal government organization. They are no longer. They are low on employees, and if he's slowing things down so that they can maximize employment.
Right, quickly,
different.
Keith, what do you think? Who wins?
I think Biden has to get him out of there. I think that right now, unless you have the people that you want in office as president, not saying that he's a bad guy or a good guy, but as a president, you should have the right to put people in. And I think if you're slowing down mail, you have to go.
All right, finally, guys, last week over 50 female Air Italia flight attendants stripped off their clothes and staged a protest for higher wages. Guys, in general, are you okay with flight attendants taking off their clothes during a public protest? Ogie.
In general, yes. Of course.
Yeah.
Well, one qualifier, female.
Oh, I got that. So, Dave,
That
what do you
would
think?
certainly keep me awake during the flight.
Keith, would you favor flight attendants taking off their clothes for a protest?
I'm against any of that. I just think it's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would do that. I just don't like that.
Keith is going to be the first subscriber to Trump's Truth social network.
I just don't like
All
that.
right, well, that's all the time we've got. Oh, except for this. People in the Triangle area are still fuming over a recent episode of Jeopardy where all three contestants got something wrong. They said, we didn't think Raleigh was in North Carolina. We can only wish. It's kind of a slam against Raleigh, wasn't it? All right, for all of us here on Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next time.